Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Open Gate. Glad you could join us. I wanted to take a few minutes to share a summary of our earlier call this morning with Shauna Beamish, and just to give you a small bite of wisdom, a chance to exhale, and a few nuggets of information that I hope will provide you some concrete information that can help you just navigate these tough times. And what we're talking about today is managing the work and home collision. As a leader, and especially now with the last 90 days or so of this lockdown, that the challenges of work and home seem to be colliding even more and more. And that impacts us as leaders when our team members have personal issues that tend to bleed into the workplace. So that's the topic that we want to talk about and share a few insights with you today. But I want to start by just reminding you that you really have this opportunity to build your influence. You really do have the opportunity to have an effect on the development, the character, or the behavior of someone else. And even if it doesn't feel like it some days, I just want to assure you that you really, really do. And I hope that you just remember that. Know that every choice you make can have a ripple effect on those around you. And it's our job as leaders to just make sure we're making good choices and being wise about how we go about our day. So the things we wanted to talk about though today is, again, when you start to notice that one of your team members is having personal issues that are starting to influence their performance, that is one of the biggest challenges I find that leaders face. And so what are 3 things that you can do about that? It's knowing, first of all, how to pinpoint the problem. Number 2, it's knowing our role and how to hold those boundaries. And number 3, it's that subtle ability of how to balance empathy along with your authority. And that's really sounds simple, but in reality, it's not. There's a lot of nuance to this stuff, and that's, again, what we want to talk about today. So as far as pinpointing the problem, it really is a challenge to pinpoint it quickly, I find. And why is that? Well, a couple reasons come to mind. We're too busy. We've got way more on our plate than we can reasonably handle. So if something is working reasonably well, then the old "if it's not broke, don't fix it" tends to come into play. Or we're not paying attention. We're just simply, it's not gathering our attention. Or it's, people can be very skillful at hiding problems or difficulties or poor work performance. They have many ways that they can kind of keep it from our attention. And so then that takes a long time. Sometimes it's just our own denial or unwillingness to see that something is really a problem. And I think that's actually bigger than we give it credit for. I like to use the phrase, never underestimate the power of denial. And it's so true not only in addictions type problems, but in life, in the workplace, so many things that we experience. Or you might have those really weird gray areas where it's just not clear if the behavior is bad or not. And we find ourselves scratching our heads going, well, did I really see what I think I saw? I'm not so sure. And so the best advice as to what you can do about that is really, number 1, make a concerted effort to pay attention and just saying to yourself, I'm going to watch behavior, I'm going to watch performance, and I'm going to pay attention to make sure that people are performing the way that I expect and not get caught up in everything that's on my plate. But as a leader, I have to be poking my head around and looking at what's going on around me. So paying attention is number 1. Number 2, I would say observing changes is your next biggest ally in how to pinpoint the problem. So I could give you a laundry list of things to look out for, behaviors to pay attention to, but the biggest thing to remember is to look for a change in patterns or behavior. So those are some of the common things, like Monday and Friday absences, a person who maybe disappears for a long period of time. When we're in this online world, it might be you don't hear from them at all. They don't respond to your emails or your outreach calls, missed deadlines and mistakes. If that wasn't the habit of that person before and that's a change, that's something to take note of and to pay attention to. Or maybe somebody who's generally even keeled and then all of a sudden they become really moody or snap for no reason. And then some of the observable things to pay attention to are just changes in appearance. We've all probably gotten a little more relaxed, again, working from home or working in a remote capacity where we don't necessarily have to dress up to the same scale. But if you are noticing someone coming on a Zoom call in their pajamas, that's probably a good indicator that maybe something's amiss, unless that's part of your company culture, which that's okay too. But so again, it's not wise for me to give you a list because you know best. But again, looking for those changes and being observant to that are really the things to pay attention to. The second point is knowing your role and how to hold those boundaries. And again, it sounds really simplistic. Again, it's the subtle nuance of this that I think folks find probably the most difficult. It's so easy for those roles and boundaries to get blurry. And particularly, I think now that we're working from home more and that we're interacting more, talking more about our personal lives, it just becomes more difficult and especially hard as a supervisor. And some of the things, I mean, we're taught and we're expected to be empathetic and show care and concern. And that's absolutely what we want to be doing. So then where does that line cross? How do I show empathy and concern and respect while at the same time holding a hard line for behavior and performance? And it is there's a degree of a balancing act that you're trying to do there. And again, if I were to boil it down to just a few small tips would be, what is my role? Asking yourself, what is the role that I'm expected to perform? And my role as a supervisor is to set expectations, monitor that progress, provide the conditions for success, and then give feedback as needed. And if it goes beyond that, if it's personal, then I need to recognize that I have limitations on my ability to help someone with their personal issues. And that's again where you want to refer someone, help them find resources and help, but don't try to intervene and solve the problem for them. And the third point is balancing empathy and authority. And again, it's that balance beam that you're walking. It's really difficult to have those hard conversations and giving feedback. And why is that? Well, there's a number of reasons I find, not only in myself, but in talking with other leaders. I think the number one is that fear of the unknown. You give difficult feedback, you don't often know how someone is going to respond. And if they respond with strong emotion, that's really oftentimes makes somebody uncomfortable. Another reason, sometimes we just don't know how to respond effectively. We haven't been trained, we haven't been given the tools. And so again, that's why we're attempting to give you some of that information today, is to give you a little tool here and there that can help make it easier for you, because the more you do it, the more you practice, the better you get at it. Or sometimes it's wanting to be the cool boss and wanting to be liked over wanting to be respected. And being liked is great, and that's a byproduct, but as a leader, you have to recognize there are many times on that road that you're going to have to make decisions not everybody's going to like. And making peace with that and being okay with that is a critical part of being an effective leader. So again, what do you do about it? What's the way to kind of find that good balance? Is focusing on performance and focusing on what's concrete and observable, as opposed to, well, it's a personality conflict. I hear that a lot. It's a personality conflict, or that's just the way that person is. And when we tend to excuse behavior, but when you're able to focus on what is the person's performance, what exactly are they doing, what are the facts that I observe and I see or hear, or what data am I getting? If you can focus on that, it makes it much easier. And the empathy, and again, a really tough concept to really understand, or execute, I would say. The empathy comes in how you communicate that. And that's something I think we'll delve deeper in future discussions. But empathy really is about not sympathy. It's not feeling sorry for someone or pity. What empathy is really showing the ability to get into another person's shoes, understand what they might be feeling, and to be able to respond in a way that's effective and supportive, and not minimizing or disparaging or patronizing. That's what empathy really is, and it's a tough thing to execute sometimes. So the key, again, and sometimes when you give that feedback, you might get derailers, you might get defensiveness, you might get anger, and all those things could take you off your goal and your focus. And the key is to acknowledge it, but recognize when you're being derailed. Don't take the bait, and move the conversation back to acknowledging the facts and what you need. So those are some small tips. If you would like a more expanded discussion of this, we encourage you to join our monthly At the Open Gate web calls, where we delve a little bit deeper with our guests. And so and it's an opportunity to build each other up and communicate with other peers and enjoy that sense of community. So I hope you join us. Our next one is June 24th at 9 a.m. Pacific time. You can go to opengateconsulting.com on our calendar page, and you can sign up there. So hope you join us, and hope you have a super day. Thanks, everyone.